Welcome to another edition of Z. Michelson's Travel Podcast. Z. Michelson, making your travel dreams come true. On this edition of the podcast, Z's going to be talking about travel tips, getting us here, there, and everywhere. On the last edition of the podcast, she talked about some appliances that you need to take, some cell phone information that you might need if you're traveling, and packing. And today we're going to be talking about money and taking care of yourselves. So, Z, welcome to the podcast.
Yay, here we are again at the podcast.
Yeah.
Down home at the podcast.
Sitting right here. Well, you have a big studio to do this in, and you're so excited to do this.
Yes, I am. Because I love to travel.
Well,
and, every time I travel, I learn something new and exciting every day. So,
well, now you've traveled around the country and around the world, right?
I've traveled around the country and part of the world.
Part of the world.
Part of the world. And I'm still traveling.
Right.
So.
And so that's part of the fun of being in the travel business.
Yes, I love to travel. But, being in the travel business means when you're traveling, you're going to want to have money.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that, everybody says, oh, you're going on a vacation. You got money on you?
No.
And you don't want to be one of those scammed people that, all of a sudden you're sitting in Arkansas or something and you get this thing saying, oh, you've been abducted by crazy people and they want $1,000 reward or something.
Now, that happened to you, didn't it?
Yes, it did. I never left the country and I was on my way to Colorado. And all of a sudden, I received a phone call from an old employer saying, first things first, are you okay? And I said, yes, I am. And he says, well, there's this thing going around saying that you're, being held captive overseas somewhere, and they want like $1,500 for your release. I said, oh, isn't that nice?
And you're what? You were in state of confusion? No, state of Kansas?
I was in Kansas, I believe,
right?
When I was driving through. So
you and Dorothy were in Kansas?
There's no place like home. But, so they do have those scams out there. So be aware that, tell people where you're going, what's going on. Like I said in the other podcast, there are ways to keep in touch with people through Viber and WhatsApp and things like that. So.
Okay. Now, you said money earlier.
Money, yes.
Do I go to the bank and pull out hundreds of dollars and take them with me? What do I do?
There are several schools of thought. Okay, first things first. We're Americans, so what's the first thing we go for in our wallets?
Our credit card?
Our plastic,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, some things you might want to know when you're going overseas is a lot of people have the Discover card over here.
Yes.
It's virtually unknown over there.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that they don't have it, but a lot of people don't know it, so don't even think about it. Also, American Express.
Yes.
Everybody says, I got my American Express card. It's less common overseas. Yeah, they do have it, but it's less common.
And they don't care for it.
Right. The go-to ones are your Visa and your MasterCard.
Okay.
Now, you got to double check before you leave because sometimes when you're charging, they're going to charge you a percentage ratio for overseas purchases.
And also, I want to stop you and ask you this question. What happens if you get overseas and your bank doesn't know you're there and they don't honor the card?
Always contact your bank if you're going to be making large purchases. One of the companies that I worked with in the travel industry, they'd all of a sudden give me a charge card number and it would be declined. And it was because they forgot to tell their bank they were about to charge this big resort fee.
Right.
So always, if you know you're going overseas or you're going somewhere on a long trip, and that's even here in the United States, contact your MasterCard or your Visa card or your bank card and say, listen, I'm going to be putting some extra charges on my card. And and then they'll release the fees.
Now, what are some of the charges that I'm going to be that are going to be on my Visa card or MasterCard? What are some of the ones that I'm going to have to look for?
Okay, what your Visa card and your MasterCard, and you can probably take care of this even before you go overseas. That's what I usually do for everybody, is your hotel, your car rentals, things like that. You can order that and pay for that while you're here in the United States. So by the time you get there, it's already
taken care
done. So that's a done deal. But say you're over there and you say, oh, I never rented a car. I think, we want to take a tour. You can use your charge cards for car rentals over there.
Now, I'm in England and I want to rent a car. I've never driven in England. What happens? Is it
Okay, first things first. Whenever you're going overseas, you're going to be issued a different type of a license, like it's like almost like a temporary type of thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And when you go over to England, yes, you are driving on the other side of the street. So if you're not comfortable with it, I advise you not to do it. Also, most of the cars there are more compact than here in the United States. When we think of a compact car and they think of a compact car, it's two different compact cars.
You know those, what are the minis, the Mini Coopers?
Oh, the Mini Coopers.
And the small, those are everywhere.
Over there. Yes.
Everywhere.
Yes. And also, when you're driving overseas, they don't automatically give you an automatic.
Oh.
They give you a clutch. So if you're not aware, you need to let them know that you cannot drive a clutch.
Now, since you're driving, if you're in England and you're driving on the wrong side of the road, is the gear shifts backwards too?
Yeah, it's on the other. It's in the middle, but you're in the other side, so you have to.
Oh yeah! Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. With my left hand. Oh my goodness! Yes.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different when you're driving overseas. Oh, but like I said, in some countries, you're still driving on the same side of the road.
Yeah.
But they are going to give you a clutch. That's kind of the automatic thing to give you.
Those are called standard transmissions.
Standard transmissions.
Is what we used to call them.
Yes. And they're more prevalent.
Yeah.
So if you are calling to make your reservations, please let the person know that you cannot drive a clutch vehicle or a standard. You have to have an automatic.
Do most rental cars overseas have air conditioning?
It depends on where you're going.
Okay.
Yeah, some do, some don't.
Right, because you don't need it.
And
right?
again, you got to request it. Make sure your car has air conditioning.
Okay. So now we've rented. We're using our Visa and
Right,
MasterCard.
you're using your Visa and MasterCard.
Probably not using the American Express.
Right.
Or Discover
Or your
card.
Discover card.
Okay.
But cash.
Do I need cash?
What
am I going to need cash for?
You need cash. Certain things you're going to need cash for, like buses or taxis or some of the local guides. They want cash on the dash, you know. Some of the smaller stores, the mom and pops, where you might want to pick up a souvenir or two, they want cash. Because, again, you know that the stores are being charged a percentage fee as well.
Well, now, a lot of stores that I had visited when I was overseas, they actually had the American conversion. They converted to the euro or whatever.
Right. Now, when you're converting your dollars into the euros or whatever currency, there's a couple of guidelines for that. Okay. Be wary of the charges, because certain places will charge you a fee to exchange your money. Okay. Usually your best bet is when you arrive at the airport to go to the airport ATM. And the ATM will have a conversion that will be of appropriate price.
Put your money in.
Yeah. When I was on the ship, every time we docked in a different port,
you had to get different
money.
currency.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in Scotland and England and Wales, we used the British pound.
Right.
In Ireland, we used the euro.
Now, when I was in the Czechoslovakia, it's not Czechoslovakia anymore. It's what is it?
Where did you go?
I went to Prague.
Prague.
Okay? It had a different currency, and then I went to Germany, and we were on
and
the
had
euro.
Different currency.
Yeah, and so it was quite exciting.
Right. So you got to be aware. There is an app, and as we're talking, I'm going to tell you what the app is, because I have it right on my phone, which is really fabulous.
What, the conversion rate?
I have a conversion app on my phone for whatever country you're going to.
Oh, good. See, that's a travel tip from Z. Michelson from Z. Michelson Travel.
It's called, the app is called X, like X-ray E, and it's called Currency. And you can just plunk in, where you're going. It'll tell you what currency, and it'll convert dollars into wherever you're going. And so you'll know right up front.
Great.
Because the currency rates can change frequently, as we know.
Daily, yes.
So you always want to be aware of those rates. And like I said, that app is great.
Okay, now, again, we were talking about cash. How much cash should I have on hand daily?
Yeah, you see, that's a personal thing. Me personally, I only like to have a couple of $100 on me. Okay. I don't like to have a lot of cash on me, and that's because I prefer not to get robbed.
All right. So you prefer to have a couple of $100 on you?
Just a couple of $100, not a lot of cash.
So
I don't want a lot of cash on me.
when we're done with the studio today, you're taking me out to dinner?
I'm not traveling.
Oh, bummer. Okay.
But being being concerned about theft overseas, when you're overseas, you got to be a little wary because you are not in your backyard.
Right.
So to keep you safe, you might want to do some common sense precautions. And I mean common sense precautions.
Such as?
A lot of men wear money belts.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's a big thing because you can keep your valuables in there, like your cash or your charge cards.
Or your passport.
It's pretty safe overseas. But what's prevalent over there are pickpockets. You know, the Artful Dodger, you know, you have pickpockets. So you want to kind of keep aware of who's sitting around you or what's going on around you. Keep your wits about you. It's, you know, you're not...
You know, we Americans sometimes are too helpful. And if someone comes up to you and wants some directions and pats you on the back...
Right.
Check your wallet.
Right. Check your wallet. They shake your hand. Check your watch. You know, in parts of Italy, there are scams which are really crazy. And I know this sounds absolutely nuts, but the people that do these types of scams will pretend they have a baby in their hand, which is an actual doll. And they'll kind of come up to you and throw this doll at you, thinking the baby is being thrown, so you'll catch the doll. And in the meantime, you're losing your purse because they just ran off with it.
Oh, wow.
So you want to be aware of what's going on around you.
That was a cheap doll.
Yeah. I mean,
or a very expensive doll.
Yeah, well, by that time, the doll's already, you know, you're already kicking the doll across the street because you're chasing after this person who just grabbed your wallet.
Wow.
So you want to be aware of these situations. Also, when you're in a restaurant or sitting there, okay, just kind of be aware of what's going on. If women, don't put your purse down, don't put it behind your back.
Right, put it on the back of the chair.
Right, a lot of women put it on the back of the chair and they forget it's there. And this is like, you know, a party for a pickpocket. You know, because they can easily nail what's in your wallet and and your purse never leaves your side.
Right. Now, Honey has this little travel purse that she carries with her.
Right.
That's got all the credit cards and the phone in it and
Right.
all that
So
stuff.
either she puts it on her body.
Right.
Or she puts it next to her on the table. Or if you have a smaller purse, you can put it next to you in your chair. But always wrap the arm of the purse around your wrist or your leg or something where they can't run off with it because it's still attached to you.
So we make sure we don't see your wrist going down through the restaurant, right?
Right. I come from New York, so we have this natural instinct to do silly stuff like that. So as you've seen me do that sometimes in the restaurants, you'll see me put my purse down by my foot and then I'll wrap it around my ankle so that nobody can really walk off with it.
Right.
Now, also, if you're sitting around somewhere...
Have you seen someone crawl under the table?
Somebody who crawls under the table, they're going to get a foot in their nose.
Yeah.
But if you see commotion going on around you or in the distance or right in the same area,
could be a setup.
Go on alert. Yes, this is a way to distract. So people get distracted by what's going on over there, and meanwhile something's being taken over there. Again, it's pretty safe to go overseas. It's more like, you know, pickpocket type stuff, but you don't want your pockets picked when you're overseas. Yeah,
right.
Because you got your money, you got your credit card, your ID, your passports. You don't want that being taken.
Okay, now one other thing that I'd like to talk about is tipping.
Tipping,
Tip
yes.
it, Canoe and Tyler too.
We Americans are wonderful.
Yes, we do.
Yes, because we tip like crazy.
Right.
You know, if
now,
we
is this something you don't do in Europe?
It's not a big thing overseas like it is here, because a lot of times this money is included. You see, our waitresses and waiters, they don't get paid like a normal fee. They don't get paid $12 an hour or whatever. They get paid a small fee, and then they live on their tips.
Right.
Overseas, it's a little bit different. So when you're tipping overseas, a lot of people don't even think you're going to tip.
Now, is the tip on the bill?
Sometimes you'll see it on the bill. In Europe, in a lot of places, you'll notice that it's included in the service at the restaurant. And if you have really good service, it's okay to tip between 5 and 10%. Now, we Americans go, oh my gosh, 5%, 10%. But a 10% tip over there is extremely generous.
Because it's already been included or not included?
Because
you're
they're
saying
getting,
this is in addition to what's on the bill.
Right. They're getting paid a decent amount of money to be, to waitress or waiter. And then, now they're getting extra on top of it. So it's like a bonus to them. So what you want to do is, if it's really good and you give them a 10% tip, that's really, really good. But sometimes if you tip sometimes people get a little put off over there too. So you got to see what's going on. You look at your
People
bill.
get put off if you tip.
Yeah, sometimes they get insulted. So you have to be careful of where you're at. But yeah, tipping is not as big over there as it is here. And, sometimes over here, if somebody gives you a 15% tip over here, they look at you like, what a tightwad you are.
Yeah.
But over there, 10% is considered very generous.
Well, if you want more information from Z. Michelson from Z. Michelson Travel, you might check out the blog. Where would that be?
My blog is Z. Michelson Travel Blog. Just go to Z. Michelson blog.
All right.
Very simple. Now, one thing, there's so much that you can learn about going overseas. One of my go-to people, in my last tip show, I talked about Samantha Brown with her luggage. Now here, when it comes to more travel tips, my go-to guy, whenever I have a question or I need to find out more, I go to ricksteves.com.
Oh, well, he's on TV too,
He's on TV. He's been traveling for years. He has his own tour group, and he has lists and lists and lists of every tip known to mankind. So Rick Steves is a good place to go to. So it's a trustworthy site.
Okay, but your site, please don't forget zmichelsontravel.com.
Yes, you want to come to me first.
Because you can arrange tours, you can arrange private parties, you can arrange all kinds of things.
Groups, yep.
Groups, get them started and get you traveling, right? Okay, well, thank you for being with us today here on Z. Michelson Travel, where we've talked about some travel tips, about money, about tipping, about theft, scams, things to look out for. So join us again next time for another edition of Z. Michelson Travel Podcast. Until then, I'm Jay Lawrence.
And this is Z. Michelson, making your travel dreams come true.